Thank you very much. Wonderful welcome, a great opportunity to present to you guys. And I think there are two key takeaways that I have this morning. The first learning is that never take the opening keynote, because if you want a large audience, always take in sort of a little earlier, closer towards lunch perhaps. And the second is don't do a session when India is playing cricket in the World Cup, right? But nevertheless, so thank you very much for coming in. What I'm going to talk about today is basically Unilever's approach towards crafting brands for life in a connected world. And I'm sure that most of you are very familiar with our brands in India and hopefully using lots of them, keeping the wheels running for us. So I'm going to give you a perspective of what it means in the digital world or the connected world to be building brands. So that's the key purpose of the session. I don't know how many of you have seen this video. If you haven't, then look up. Okay, so there are a few people who've seen it, but if you haven't, then anybody in the tech world, I highly recommend to look up this video. And the reason why I put this up, because I think it's a fantastic piece which runs through in a very short period of time and brings to life what's actually happening in the technology world. But more importantly, that the guy speaks super fast. And I took it as a challenge because I've got about a couple of hundred charts to show, and I think 20 minutes. So I thought I should set myself up for the challenge on whether I can meet his pace. So look up this video when you go back. It's Scott, and it's called the 4 Horsemen video, talking about technology companies. I think everybody knows this. We've talked about it often, but that basically that the times that we live in are extremely full of uncertainty and volatility, and I think that's a very broad context of what's happening around the world. Within this, from a Unilever perspective, there are, I think, we look at it as 3 seismic shifts which are taking place, and all 3 of them are absolutely of great importance in the way we build our brands. The first of which is the emergence of the D&E markets, and naturally India is a large part of that. The second of which is the whole emphasis around sustainability and sustainable living. That's an absolutely important dimension, and no surprises, the third one is digital, and I guess that's primarily the reason why everybody is here. But just to spend a couple of minutes on D&E markets, and I think this is an important chart and should give us all a great deal of confidence as well as optimism in the way forward, because if you really see this, what's happening is that the entire center of gravity is shifting towards the D&E markets from an economic standpoint. And while population will continue to grow, what is more remarkable is that the economies are going to expand much, much faster than they've ever been. And therefore, all of us in the room over here, we've got an absolutely fantastic future ahead of us in the next few years to come. I think I'm not going to spend much time on sustainability, but suffices to say that even as that growth is taking place, the planet is under a challenge, and that's again something very, very critical, and for all of us to remember as responsible human beings and citizens, that something we have to keep in mind is the entire dimension of sustainable living and sustainability. And indeed, in the technology world, in the digital world, the changes which are taking place are super rapid. I don't need to tell you guys are all already in this space, but it's extremely dramatic and very, very fast. So the question therefore is really, how do we actually then, within this context of the D&E markets, within the context of sustainable living, and within the context of rapid changes in economy, bring to bear our vision, which is about doubling the size of a business while we reduce the environmental footprint and increase our social impact. And what I'm going to talk about now really is about how we are therefore applying this in marketing, and what's our approach towards marketing and crafting brands for life in the connected world. When we think of crafting brands, basically we look at putting people first. No surprises, many companies talk about consumers, but we'd like to believe that we have to look at people as people rather than as consumers. So of course they consume our products, but what is more important is how can we actually connect with them at a level which is deeper than just being a consumer. Naturally, the second key thrust for us is to build brand love. Building brand love in many ways is much more than growing sales or building market share. So something which is again a very deeper connection with the people is what we would like to do through the building brand love agenda. And in doing this, we have to unlock the magic. And this is where again the new channels, a multitude of channels at our disposal come to play. Our marketing mission is fairly simple. It is about reaching more people in more places and making sure that we bring to life all the brilliant experiences. So fairly straightforward. Now, within the digital thing, and you struggle to put, when somebody says, try and articulate what digital is, you struggle to put it on a chart. And this exactly typifies, what's going on right now. So if you just see social, mobile, or any of the different parts of the ecosystem, it is extraordinarily complicated. There are any number of players which did not exist, 2, 3, 4, 5 years back, leave alone 20 years back. So this complicated ecosystem is definitely something that we have to figure out how we navigate. And it's almost like, trying to figure out this ecosystem within the context of, it's like a maze. It's very easy for marketeers, especially if on the consumer side, to get lost in this wild ecosystem and to forget, the importance of scale, forget the importance of engagement. And do things just because they are cool or they belong to new technology. So one of the key things, mantras for us is, this is really crucial in our marketing agenda, it's just to absolutely keep calm, not get fazed by everything that we see around, and keep it really calm and simple, right? So we try and simplify as much as we can this extensive maze that we see. And therefore we've really adopted an agenda which we call internally as turbocharging digital, and it's got 4 thrusts. The first of which is to try and put in place a number of enablers which make sure that we deliver this agenda. There are some key drivers, and those are tools, technologies, capabilities, all those sorts of things, partnerships. Most important in doing this is a mindset and embracing this change agenda. So naturally that is very important, and we try and bring through within the company a culture, a high culture of experimentation, and doing things which support this overall thrust of turbocharging. Partnerships play a big role for us, and so does mobile. We want to more and more begin to think of how we can infuse a startup mentality within a marketing system, and of course we have to build capability. And when I say build capability, I mean primarily make sure that all our marketers are trained and understand the digital world in a very big way. Naturally, when we think of partnerships, there are obviously the big partnerships which we have at a global level. So whether it is with Facebook, with Google, with Twitter, with Apple, some of the top companies in the world in the digital space, and equally we are forging more and more partnerships with people and companies which have relatively not necessarily a global presence, but you could call them regional, local, or indeed in the context of China, only China presence. So partnerships play a very, very important role. And I know that many of you in the room come from one of our partners or another. I'm going to show you a short video which is about a campaign, and I've tried to pick out one Indian example and a couple of sort of what you could look at as international examples. So I'm going to show you a campaign which we did recently in Southeast Asia, and the reason I picked this is because it absolutely brings to life the crafting brands for life philosophy that I talked about. It puts people first, in this case the relevant target audience for this particular campaign being the teens. It rests totally within the popular culture, because it's really important that whatever we do has to rest within popular culture, passion points of consumers. And I think it's a good narrative of how we can combine all of these and bring them to life in the digital world. So take a look at this video.
Southeast Asia. The teenagers are not unlike the rest of the world. They love their friends, fashion, music, and are addicted to their mobile phones. They want brands that offer experiences for the collective and make them feel more connected to the international pop culture scene. Whilst Cornetto had been a much-loved brand in the past, it had lost its cool and needed to reconnect with the hearts and mouths of this important audience in Southeast Asia. How? Enter Cornetto Red, a partnership that brought one of the region's most popular artists, Taylor Swift, to Southeast Asia for the very first time. Taylor Swift cancelled her European leg to bring her Cornetto Red concert tour to the region, kicking off the campaign with a personal message.
Hey, it's Taylor Swift, and guess what? My Red Tour presented by Cornetto will be coming to Bangkok.
Then launched an online and on-ground talent competition, Ride to Fame, that offered a truly collective experience and a chance to become the opening act for Taylor's sold-out tour. Cornetto released millions of Taylor Swift branded ice creams with 6 collectible lid designs, tempting teens to trial and repurchase. Each Cornetto, a key to connect with the digitally integrated promotion through platforms teens love, giving them a chance to win tickets, choose the opening act, and even meet Taylor Swift herself.
There's no right answer. Regretting him was
results? At a time when new competitors have been eating away at market share, Cornetto successfully regained its cool. Over 90 million Cornettos were sold, increasing sales by 8% across the region and a staggering 26% in Indonesia. More than 1,000 artists generated collective content in the Ride to Fame contest. Facebook fans tripled and campaign impressions topped over 917 million. Cornetto was cool again, making a connection with Southeast Asia that would last well beyond the music.
Yeah, so like I said, this is an example which brings to life popular culture or passion points, in this case music. And as you saw, I mean, normally speaking, when we do videos like these concerts are done by somebody else and we use them in the videos, you know, so we get an agency picks up some footage and uses it. But this is really Unilever concert or the Red Tour or the Cornetto concert. Unbelievable stuff. And you saw that fundamentally, you know, this has done two things. One is, of course, it has helped us to grow sales, as you saw on some of the numbers over there, and dramatic growth in Indonesia, and equally, you know, Southeast Asia had a fantastic growth as well. But most importantly, it's managed to connect with the consumers and really tap onto their passion points in a very, very big way, in this case teens. Right. I think the second aspect that I want to talk about is again fairly straightforward. And if you really look at most of the economies, and more specifically in the emerging markets, then you typically look at it as a pyramid with a lot of people who are the have-nots. There are people who have something, and then there are a few who are have-lots. And while the pyramid may be, you know, a little broader or more taller in some places, generally speaking, this holds good. Now the interesting part is that whichever way you look at it, across all this, everybody has a have mobile. Right, so whether you're a have-not or you have lot, it doesn't matter, you have a mobile. And as somebody said the other day, you know, that we are going to see mobile penetration zoom up very fast. And I often wonder whether in the Maslow's need of hierarchy, it is now sort of food, mobile, clothing, and then shelter. But you know, it's quite actually sort of, it is playing out in that fashion almost, right? So what is important for us? So this is an absolutely big agenda for us, and we are as many of you know, Mobile Marketer of the Year in India, but equally so we are the same in China, in Indonesia, and Vietnam, and just about a number of countries in APAC and global, because this 3 years back we picked this up as the biggest thrust within the overall digital area that we need to drive, and therefore accelerating you know, upwards of 100% year on year for the last 3, 4, 5 years, and yet of a small base. So that journey continues, and I think we'll keep driving it very hard. But what is really important here, and the key point I want to make it, it is not just, you know, blanket mobile, let's do mobile sort of stuff, but it has to be fit for purpose. And what I mean by that is really that if you look at it, on one end we have smartphones where we have to have mobile enabled assets, whether they are mobile enabled websites or otherwise, and equally on the other hand we have to have campaigns or solutions which target a different kind of audience. Because I go back to the pyramid, there are people who cut across the entire pyramid in terms of the spectrum. So there is naturally, you know, very simple things like IVR and mobile advertising, and equally there is stuff which is quite compelling. I'm sure you guys have heard about this campaign. If you haven't, it's the most awarded campaign last year from India. I think close to nearly about 85, 90 awards last year. Just about every award that you can think of on the planet which related to mobile communication, somewhere along the line KKD featured. And this is our own mobile radio station which we launched in Bihar, which as you know is a media dark area. Lots of people over there don't have access to television or power, or in some cases completely media dark. But interestingly, like I said earlier, almost the mobile penetration in the state is very high. Everybody has a mobile and they're hungry for entertainment. So we thought that it will be a cool idea if we can actually launch a mobile radio channel whereby the consumer calls this number and then the IVR calls him back with you know, songs, with Bollywood jokes, Bollywood dialogues, a whole lot of content, and within that is our advertising, right? And as it turns out, within a period of 1 year it became the largest media channel in Bihar. Not media channel on mobile, but media channel any, right? So bigger than radio, bigger than television, bigger than print. And I think that's fairly dramatic in terms of scale. And naturally we then had an opportunity to expand it to many other markets, and indeed you know, we will take it to other places as well. So there's lots of videos on this on YouTube and different channels. Yeah, and this was the most awarded campaign I said in total, but this won the maximum number of Cannes Gold. Cannes, which is considered as the most prestigious of all communication awards, this was absolutely sort of roaring it there big time. Something that we are very, very proud of within the company, and again a great example of resting in popular culture, in this case Bollywood, and the music which goes with it. Connecting with an audience, in this case audience which is basically living off feature phones and using voice more than any other sophisticated technology, and doing it at scale. So I think the three things, if you want to take out of everything that I've said so far, and if you want to remember, it's about scale, it's about connecting with the popular culture and making sure that it comes to life in a dramatic manner. I also talked about the mindset and culture, and one of the things we started 3 years back in 2013 was about experimentation within the company, and we've got across markets now. We run what we call as the digital experimentation funds, which is, think of it like an internal VC pitch, where brand managers or brand teams or media teams come up with ideas which otherwise don't have funding within the company, and pitch, and a panel of judges picks out the winners and then funds those campaigns, which generally speaking are disruptive, or and KKT was primarily born out of a similar such pitch. More and more we want to push experimentation, and I know that many of you come from companies which are engaged in the space, and between startups, early stage, to well funded and sort of well established startups. But whichever way, we want to invite that ecosystem into our universe to understand, for us to understand better what technology can do, but equally for us to be making sure that we are leveraging all those technologies in getting our brands to come to life. We started an initiative last year in the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and we called it Go Global, and this was basically an idea where we took 7 global brands and pitched them across the startup ecosystem, largely the West, I have to say, US and Europe, and we invited them to pitch with solutions, right? And we got close to 30,000 odd people, whom we farmed this out to. All of these were startups of one kind or another. We had over 500 odd sort of targeted people who came back with some kind of solution or another, whittled it down to 40 shortlists, and eventually got 14 people to present to us their ideas in 7-minute sort of shootouts in Barcelona. And of the 14, in theory we should have selected 7, because there were only 7 briefs which went out, but we ended up working with 10, because there were all 14 of them were cool, but 10 were very, very relevant. So I think the key point over here is, and as you can see, we did this across a number of our projects and brands, but the key point over here is that there is a lot of stuff which is going on, which is interesting from the perspective of technology companies and startups, which Unilever is interested in, and equally there's a lot of stuff which Unilever is doing which should be of interest to the technology companies and startups. So I invite you, much like I invite you to keep pitching and sending your proposals. I know many of you do that very aggressively in any case, but typically in your 7-minute shootout, 30-second elevator speech, that sort of stuff, I think we're beginning to like that more than long 30-chart presentations. As a consequence of what our experience in Barcelona was, which was terrific, both from the perspective of getting an outreach with the startup and technology community, but equally also having great ideas come back to us. We launched last year what we call as a Unilever Foundry. We launched it in London, and then subsequently we've now launched it in Philippines and Singapore, and soon enough we are moving it to other markets. And basically this idea is about, it's the same, it's a platform which combines or brings together the startup and technology companies with the Unilever brands. I want to spend a couple of times on how we see and what are the big changes which are taking place. And if you think of it, this was the earlier version of Wall Street or Dalal Street, where you had people on the trading floor making thumbs up and thumbs down and some funny signs, and then that's how trades used to take place. And all of that was displaced as technology came along, and what you had or have today is terminal screens, computers in big rooms, and probably the same chaos, but it's happening in a different way. And I think definitely our advertising world and the communications world is going that way. The whole days of madmen are now getting more and more automated, and soon enough we will see that a large part of the media planning buying ecosystem is run by computers through programmatic rather than by having sort of a nice glass of wine and a long lunch and doing a deal. I think those days are pretty much gone, and it's going to be more and more of the digital trading universe. Now what this also means, it was said earlier that one of the big things that I certainly believe in, and as a company we believe in, is this whole idea of listening into what's going on, because the overall digital ecosystem allows us to get into conversations and to be able to listen like it's never happened before. It was impossible earlier to listen into hundreds of conversations which were taking place, and you did one interview there or a few focus group discussions, but digital has switched that big time, where we are now able to do this in hundreds and millions. Right? And the way we've approached this is to set up what we call as the command centers. This is a picture of our Unilever command center in Singapore, and basically what it does is it combines technology not just to do the listening and figure out what's going on in the world right here, right now, but also try and see how it can be deployed to bring our campaigns to life, again from the perspective of agile marketing or real-time marketing. And similarly, this is our fantastic state-of-the-art command center in Shanghai, and we are opening soon enough similar command centers in Jakarta, Manila, Mumbai and Dubai. And Mumbai in fact is already operational. Think of it like a war room or a physical space in which SWAT teams come together with a purpose, during a specified period of time, maybe a week, 2 weeks, a day, whatever it is, depending on what the event is, to activate a campaign and then disperse. Think of it like traditionally we used to work with one creative agency, one media agency, and then the brand, and 3 people would be in a room, generally speaking, hanging around pretty harmoniously. And all of that has changed to having multiple agencies, multiple partners in the room, sometimes 7, sometimes 10, and then all of them working towards the common goal during that short period of time. On one end, listening to what's going on, but equally activating all the things that they get out of listening to make the campaign better. I don't know how many of you would have seen this campaign which we ran at Valentine's Day, which was called Tweet Heart in partnership with Twitter, but basically the idea was to activate the specific Valentine's Day momentum to the benefit of some of our brands. So we created some own assets, made them famous via Twitter, essentially with the idea of creating a buzz, creating a conversation, but equally driving sales. And almost sort of an experiment or a pilot or whatever project, whichever way we want to call it, giving it enormous confidence to us that this is the way that we have to keep driving in the future. Just during that period of time, whatever we invested on the campaign and this entire activity, the sales returns that we got were absolutely manifold. And when I say manifold, I'm not talking of 10%, 20%, 30%, I'm talking of 10x. That is the sort of stuff that is possible provided we are able to activate it very well. And again, this was done out of a media command center in Mumbai. Now learning out of that, and as we speak, many of you may know the Lakme Fashion Week is going on right now in Mumbai, and we've got a temporary command center, probably a little much smaller I guess than this room, but set up with multiple screens, 8 agencies, and we don't know, like Zahir was telling me that it's basically like a highway right now. Lots of people are coming in and going in, and even our guys don't know who these agencies are, but lots of people, agencies, partners, media owners, getting into the room, trying to activate the campaign. We have a mission which is to ensure that during this Lakme Fashion Week period, through using this device of listening and real-time marketing, we touch people of an order of 3 to 5 million, which is going to be terrific, because as you know, the event is otherwise restricted to a few thousands. The last example I'm going to show you is again born out of the command center approach. Many of you might have seen the film. I'm going to show it again, but basically this. So let's take a look at the film first, and I'll talk about it. Yeah.
खूबसूरती को कैमरे में कैद करना बड़ा आसान सा लगता है, पर मेरे लिए खूबसूरती यानी एक अदा, एक खिलखिलाहट, जिसके आने से सारा स्टूडियो तरोताजा हो उठे।
Hi, I'm good.
वो एहसास, वो हलचल जो मुझसे कुछ कहे, और खासकर वो महक जो अपनी ओर खींचे, धीरे से छू के निकले, मस्ती से जगा दे। मेरा यकीन है कि जब कोई हसीन दिखता है तो तो उसके आसपास सब उसे महसूस कर सकते हैं। खूबसूरती सबको छू सकती है।
Just give me 1 second, I just want to check the pictures.
मैं जब भी फोटोग्राफ लेता हूँ वो महक ही होती है जो उसकी तस्वीर मेरे मन में बना देती है, और उसके बाद मुझे करना होता है सिर्फ एक क्लिक।
कटरीना, ये फोटोज आपको कैसे लगे?
They're amazing.
Yeah, so this again, this was a film. You guys like the film? I love it. I think it's fantastic because, of course, it's got beautiful imagery. It's one of the leading brands. But most importantly, I think it brings to life a very, very unique dimension of how fragrance can come alive. And indeed, if a visually impaired photographer can shoot such wonderful pictures, that's creates a very, very different sentiment and feel about the entire film. And what we did was, so this is a great piece of film. Typically, we in communication terms, we'd call it an asset. And we ran this campaign for multiple countries out of the command center in Singapore, something we'd never done before. And when I say never done before, is trying to activate, both plan, buy, bring to life, respond to conversations across 6 countries. Because Lux is a global brand and it's very popular in India, of course, but equally popular in many other countries as well. And that gave us a very, very unique insight again into how people react differently in different cultures and how a great piece of asset can be brought alive through one single location. I go back to what I said earlier, that there were days of the Wall Street and there were days of the Madison Avenue where there were physical people, physical spaces were important, and there's an enormous amount of simplification of life which is taking place with technology, and we are now actually able to run a campaign practically out of anywhere. And maybe who knows, soon enough we will have campaigns run out of command centers pretty much as the norm rather than as an exception. So just to summarize, for us it is turbocharging digital remains an agenda. And it's very simply because consumers are taking on to the medium faster than ever before. The pace is only growing fast. In countries like India, there's still a massive runway when you think of the internet penetration and how many people are using actually internet or digital in general. A lot of that is getting leapfrogged, as we know, because of mobile, and more people are getting using internet. It's interesting. In some of the Southeast Asia countries, if you go, they say that I'm Facebooking or I'm Googling, and these people don't even know they're on the internet. For them, the verb or the media, Facebook and Google by itself is internet, but they don't know. So you say, but you're using internet. No, I'm using Facebook. No, but that's internet. No, that's Facebook, right? And it's an interesting conversation and this is real consumers. So the point is that this is now moving at such a fast pace. Some of these platforms, some of the technologies, that we will see that more and more consumers actually can now be engaged very meaningfully at scale via these platforms, and that's why turbocharging digital remains by far a very important part of our agenda. Within this, naturally, what plays a very big role is partnerships, because we are in many ways absolute a company which has for a large period of time we've built brands in a world which has been very different from what we see today, and therefore there are experts today in the overall digital sort of ecosystem with whom we want to continue partnering. So that in summary is what I had to say. I believe we have 10 odd minutes for Q&A, so I'm happy to take any to get your thoughts, comments or questions, and indeed, like I said, invite all of you to be a part of our journey of turbocharging digital and crafting brands for life in a connected world. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? No? Good. Sorry?
Hi, this is Ajit from Vizuri. Just wanted to know, it's really welcoming to see that companies like Unilever are also talking about programmatic way of buying. Wanted to understand how much of this decision is in-house and how much of this is perhaps influenced by digital agencies that you work with.
So the big trends that we see are very clearly a lot of automation and programmatic, not just programmatic buying, but I think the whole area of automation in the discipline of media planning and buying is important. So that's something that we strongly believe in. And we saw that about 2-3 years back when it wasn't even the buzzword. Now you can't go to a tech conference without using the word programmatic, whatever it means, right? So you see people using it not knowing what it means, but nevertheless. So we are right now running our own trading desks. We call it Unilever trading desks, and these are a combination of ourselves and our agency partners. So we run one in partnership with our agency in the US, which is Mindshare. And we also running one we've also extended that to Europe again with Mindshare, and we are now running one with PhD in China. So it's going to be a combination. My guess is it's going to be a combination of in-house and some resource which we and partnerships which we use with either technology companies or agencies.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, Ian Hutchinson. You mentioned that you have these media rooms around the world. I think you said 5, and you said that you've got one going on at the moment, and when you go in there, it's chaos. You don't know who's going in, who's coming out, and who's involved, and you're seeing people you've never seen before. In this situation, who's in charge? Who's herding the cats, as it were?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, and at a very high level, I think consumers are in charge. Especially in the new world, they've really taken control of a lot of this stuff. But specific in the command center, it's usually a combination, it's a team. And I talked about a SWAT team earlier, but if I were to pick out one leader of the SWAT team, it's typically the brand manager. Typically the brand manager, and his hitman is usually the media expert. But the brand manager and the media team play a very, very important role, and then they, depending on what the job to be done is, there are different partners who are involved. But it's an interesting question, yeah. And definitely the ownership, the brand managers have to have a great deal of ownership of what's going on, especially when it comes to listening and mining insights. Yeah.
Hi, I'm from Dani company from Hyderabad, from Rolling Gate. My question is, I've seen a couple of commercials.
Excuse me.
Well shot commercials. I want to know, what are you doing in the content marketing space? Are you also producing additional content which is more widespread?
Yes, we are. So if you see the Taylor Swift video that I showed was actually like a case study we put together. And naturally, one of the things, if you notice in that, was about us, bringing to life the stars. The opening act of each show in the Taylor Swift concert was crowdsourced. So people filmed their own stuff. They played music. They sent in their entries, and the best band in the city got to play as the opening show, which is a big deal. If you get to open the Taylor Swift concert, you can imagine, tens of thousands of people listening, and these guys are superheroes. And naturally, we hope that they turn into big stars. So at a very broad level, crowdsourcing of content, engaging with companies which do content differently is a very important part of our philosophy and the way we go forward. I think the second film which you saw was, if you notice, not the 30-second commercial, it was much longer, right? And that's again content which has been specifically produced for where it can live longer, because we obviously can't use that in traditional advertising terms on television, but it does wonderfully well within the digital world. So to your question, are we looking at different forms of content? Yes. Are we looking at different forms of partners who produce the content? Absolutely yes.
Hi, Mohit from Havas Media. It's so heartening to see the country's largest advertiser talking so much digital, and we know how important digital is in today's day and age. My question is more about mobile. We saw and we have seen the success of Kankhajuratation. Today, mobile is being seen as a part of digital, which is wrong, you know. And you, as the number one client, do you also see mobile as a part of digital, or do you see it as a separate function? And what are your organization's plans to move in that direction? Because today, mobile is the second screen, and there's no confusion about that.
Yeah. I think lots of great points over there. The first about being the largest advertiser, yes. But I think we want to also be the smartest and the coolest. So make note of that. Yeah, that's yeah. So it's not just about being largest, but we would really like to be the savviest, smartest, whatever you want to call it. I think the way you know, most companies have looked at this whole change take place is quite interesting. So if you went back a few years, indeed mobile was a subset and possibly a smaller subset of digital. You said digital, and then within that mobile, and then came this wave. Everybody recognized that this is massive and became mobile first companies, or inverted it around and said, look, we think mobile first. So the way we look at it is it has to be fit for purpose. So I won't go so far as to say we're a mobile first company. No, we are a consumer first company. We are a people first company, and where it is relevant, we will start the solution with mobile, and KKT is a great example where it was a mobile first initiative, and equally where it is not relevant, maybe it is some other channel. So we see mobile and all other forms or all other platforms and channels as integrated into the big idea, integrated with the consumer first, with the people first approach. So our approach is absolutely putting people first, and then leading out of that, it could well be mobile. The other chart which I showed you on mobile was about the fit for purpose, because it's very easy to get carried away. There's so much of cool stuff happening out there, but it has to serve a job to be done. It must be absolutely critical to the strategy and you know, whatever the brand campaign is all about. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Patrick from being a national brand, you might be knowing that next 300 million internet users would be consuming internet in regional languages. So how do you deal the challenge of creating branded content in Odia, Tamil, Bangla, in all the languages, and having social media in all the languages for your branded content?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I frankly, I think you know, we first have to crack. Let's first get English, Hindi right. That would be my approach. We have a long way to go. Yeah, I mean, by the way, so absolutely get what you're saying in terms of the trend. But honestly, I mean, this is a massive task. You think about it. You know, producing content, etc., is really easy to stand here and talk about it, but it's very different. But progressively, the way we will look at it is to make sure, again, I go back to what I said, as long as it resonates with consumers, that's the starting point, and within that we will indeed have to start thinking of it quite differently in terms of languages and so on. And the way we so far have been doing it is internationally many languages. But if I rewind the clock back a few years, if you think of television commercials, then they play out very differently. We do produce content for television which is quite, you know, geography specific or region specific, and I'm sure that in digital that is going to come soon as well. But I don't know when. I don't think it's going to happen much in 2015. It's probably the next 2-3 years we will see that sort of progress taking place. Okay, we perhaps have time for just one or two more. Okay, so one here and one there. Okay, you can go first.
Hello, I am Prasun from Tawan Technologies. My question is whether do you measure return of investment, and if you do, how can you throw some light on that? So how you measure the success of your campaigns or content strategy and then feedback to your system?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because you know, especially when it comes to digital, there are a lot of these metrics, like you think of CPM, cost per click, impressions, views, and so on. But the real metric is, you know, what business impact does it have, and does it have impact at scale? Is it able to change and have a impact on the brand equity and or sales or market share? And it's not easy to measure that every time. So to some extent, therefore, the vanity metrics are what people are getting carried away, and the vanity metrics, as I call them, are these things of, you know, views and impressions, and you feel that's so cool, you know, you got so many. Few years back it was the likes, but every time the vanity metric changes, but I think vanity is still there, right? So we have to shift that conversation to a real business impact, real scale, and real growth or market share gains or brand equity measures. We have a lot of investment we do in trying to measure what each campaign does, but equally holistically look at either platforms or channels. Definitely an important part of the agenda.
Hi, this is Anubhuti from TechShow. I had two simple questions. One is, how do you define smart? Like you said, smart and cool. And the second one is, you did that tweet heart thing. So you said about driving sales and conversation. So on his lines, how did you understand the ROI?
Yeah, so so the first thing is, I didn't mean to put myself in a spot, okay? So I hope that answers the question. So you know what, I mean, come on, all of us guys know what smart looks like, hopefully yes. Anyway, so coming to the tweet heart part, the ROI for, there are two levels at which it's important. The first is engagement. What is the buzz that it creates, right? And in a given set of consumers whom you've tried to reach, does it really get them thinking? Does it really get them moving in some way? So I think that's the first one. So to give you an example, on the video that you saw of Lux, guess what was the sort of awareness and the brand uplift after one saw the video? Naturally, if you don't see the video, you can't begin to fall in love with the brand you've not seen, right? So you have to see it. So our job is to make it seen, and after it is seen, it's got 60% uplift in the brand metrics. Now that's significant. So people are buying into that story, they're loving that film. That is essentially, they're loving the film and the association with the brand, that's what it shows. If you look at tweet heart again, it's the same thing. We look at engagement, has it created a buzz among the people we've been able to reach the message to? And secondly, have they taken action about it? So two interesting things which we got out of tweet heart. Like I said, we got multiple times sales of whatever investment we made in the campaign, one. And the second is that we saw that there was a lot of cross-pollination across brands, because if you remember, it was across different brands that we ran the campaign. So you either went to an Axe site or you went to another destination, but even as they went there, we were able to take people around the Unilever different brands. So again, an interesting opportunity for us to either cross-sell across our portfolio or to invite consumers to those brand destinations across the portfolio. Great, one more question and then we are off. Yeah.
So amongst all the initiatives which you've done internally, which one are you really proud about and you feel is going to fetch the future as Unilever?
So among all the initiatives, which one I am?
Are really excited about and you feel is going to define the future for Unilever from a digital perspective?
You guys are seriously putting me in a spot. All the initiatives are my favorites, but if I were to choose one, I think what's going to really define and change the way marketing is done in the immediate future, for sure, the next 3, 4, 5 years, I think it's going to rest around how mobile is activated. And in general, it's fair to say that there's a massive opportunity there. Even despite the best of the campaigns that you've seen, think of yourself as consumers, and during the last 1 week, which campaign or which interaction via marketing interaction via mobile phone really excited you? The phone was with you 24 hours a day for the last 7 days, probably for the last 30 days, and you looked at it 1,000,000 times, right? But give me one marketing interaction as a consumer, because all of us in the room are consumers. One marketing interaction which you said, wow, I'm going to go take a look at it. You'll find that this is a really difficult question to answer. So which really means that if this consumer this device is in everybody's hands for that kind of time, and this that much of engagement with the platform, as marketers we have to uncover and unlock the magic and do it more and more. KKD is a great example, but there's so much more that we could be doing. Thank you very much, and really appreciate your engagement and listening to this, and as always feel free to reach out to us, and welcome all of you to continue working with us or trying to work with us as partners. So thank you very much.